The race, day 2. At dawn, we break into the open from thick, dark forest and are treated to a spectacular sight. The sun coming over our right rear lights up the entire Alaska range across our front. There are no clouds, and the mountains, McKinney on the right, tower over us in dazzling white enormity, filling the sky while the sun warms our backs and the dogs settle into running. The madness of the night is gone. The front end teams and the faster runners have moved on, and we, the dogs and I, are left to get down to the business of running better than 1,000 miles. It is a strange thing to do. The dogs are magnificent. They are the true athletes of the Iditarod. The dogs continually cause wonder with their endurance, joy, and intelligence. But they have tremendous needs. They must be fed a snack every hour or so, and 3 or more hot meals a day. Their shoulders must be rubbed every hour, and they must be allowed to shake the lactic acid buildup out of their joints each hour. And their feet. God, their feet. I am being pulled by 15 dogs, and that makes 60 feet to be taken care of, to be watched and rubbed with ointment and covered with booties if needed. So much time will be spent on my knees that I have sewn half-inch foam pads into my pants at the knees to keep my legs from freezing when I am kneeling on the snow. And in the business of running, the whole business of getting started and settling down to take care of the dogs is in the tension and speed of the race. I do not notice when we start climbing, beginning the long run up into the mountains. We move through the day, up some frozen rivers and across some frozen lakes. And when it gets dark again, we come into the first of 20 checkpoints. Noise and pandemonium, dog teams coming and going, judges and spectators all around, small planes landing on ice and taking off. The dogs cannot rest because of the noise. I get my sacks of food, and we head up the river a bit to be alone. But still, they do not rest. They sit and watch other teams coming and going, watching the planes taking off over us. Even in the dark, in the willows at the side of the river, it is crowded. A man with a team wanders in circles out in front of me. The dogs running around and around on the ice, jumping from one snowmobile trail to the next and circling back, confused by all the trails in the darkness. Everybody is confused. It is clear the dogs will not rest. I hook up their tugs and we start off again. We luckily find the right trail, and as we leave the checkpoint, the man whose team was wandering follows us out. The night passes in confusion. Teams pass us. We pass other teams. I stop to rest the dogs again, but they still will not sleep. Won't, indeed, for 2 more nights. So I let them run. The snow is unbelievably deep. When I stop them and run up alongside the team at one point to work on their feet, I mistakenly step off the trail and go in up to my armpits. I have to crawl out by grabbing the dogs and using them as an anchor. And my brain fries that second night. Sleep deprivation catches me and I start hallucinating. We have been wondering about that in briefings along with frostbite, wind, whiteouts, wind, intense cold, and finally, wind. But nothing can prepare you for your first hallucination in the race, because they are not dreams, not something from deep sleep or delirium. The intensity of the race, the focused drive of it makes for a kind of exhaustion in a musher not found in training. The hallucinations seem to roar at you. They come while you are awake, come with your eyes open, and are not completely real. There is a small bit of snow that spurts up from each dog's foot as they run, a little white jet that turns in my mind to flame. I see my dogs all running in flame, their feet and lower legs on fire. Terrified, I set the snow hook and run up and put the fire out, leaning down to pat the flames out and off the course, and of course they disappear and are not there. But the vision comes again and again until, at last, I somehow I reconcile myself by thinking it is all right because the flames do not hurt the dogs. I am amazed that they can run on liquid fire and not feel pain or get injured. The hallucinations do not go away. Indeed, they get more complicated. Often, I nearly get lost by going up rivers that aren't there, following lights that do not exist. At one point, I have a man sitting on my sled. He is wearing a trench coat and a pair of thorn-trimmed glasses and is holding a manila folder full of official-looking papers. As I watch, he turns to look up at me. He is very distinct, and I can see the wrinkles in the fabric of his coat, my own reflection in his glasses. He turns to look at me and begins to speak in a low voice about federal education grants. He is the most boring human being I have ever met, as dull as thick mud, and he goes on and on until at last I yell at him to shut up. The dogs stop and look back at me, and of course I am alone. It is only in the night when hallucinations are bad, between about 11 and 4 in the morning, and I will not learn how to truly control them until another day and a half. The night drags on forever as the dogs keep trotting and I reel in and out of half sleep on the back of the sled, but at long last it is dawn. There is cold now at dawn, deep cold. It is perhaps 50 below, and I come alongside a musher whose teeth are chattering, a bad sign, while he tries to get a fire going. Cold, he says, the words a benediction. I nod from the closed tunnel of my parka hood and pull my team over to rest. They are at last ready to stop. It is the end of day 2.